use a little more caution when it comes to those things, and that you seek input from the community, from the faculty before making those kind of decisions, if that's possible, if you can, but. And then the superintendent should answer the questions directly when asked, and again, Mr. Board has been fantastic at doing that, and we appreciate it. That's what we want in our next superintendent, that same level of communication and responsiveness. Now,
Can you take this?
Thank you, Michelle. I appreciate it. All right, we're going to get into some other issues that parents and community identified. I'm going to bring up Meredith to come up, and she's going to go through a few slides, and I think we're going to tag team on the last one ourselves. All right, the first one deals with special education, response intervention, and academic intervention services. Meredith, I'll put these up for you, so if you want to talk to them, we'll be in good shape. There we go. I just want to say one thing about these two, and I've announced this to the focus groups. The Board of Education is very aware that these three areas need to have a look at them. If you remember, there was a group that was originally hired for Futures, was going to do a study here, special education. They're no longer involved. I know the board has talked to me, and I've submitted to them a proposal to consider taking a look at these three areas too. But I think it's important that Meredith share with you, some of the concerns that came up, some of the questions that need to be asked.
Hi. Thank you for doing this, by the way. I have nothing prepared. One of the things that obviously was a huge concern for me personally, and then as a district as a whole, was the fact that there was some non-compliance last year with special ed versus RTI, and that can never happen again in this school. And we need to have a plan in place, people in place to make sure that that never happens again. So on the district, there is an RTI plan. I don't know if it, on the website, I don't know if it's current and updated as to what the new mandates are, so that needs to be visited. We went over this a little bit at the reading minutes, for the reading night, how the assessments are used, and the level of intervention required based on grades. I think there needs to be a clearer communication about that on the website for people to access. Because as a parent last year, I couldn't give that answer from anybody. So the other thing is communicating to parents about what RTI is. I know personally for me, as the third grade, they all know now what RTI is. But it's the district, I think, that needs to really be on top of that. And what assessments are used for AIS? How long are they? When are they given? That was given out at the last meeting, but I feel like that should be on the website as well. How are AIS students grouped? This is stuff that is available in the RTI document online, and that document is being 5 pages. So if we could compress that so that it's in parent language to have everybody understand it. How long do they get AIS for based on their progress monitoring? And how is that going to be delivered to parents? And then the real issue is who's going to be in charge of making sure all this happens. Does this fall on the classroom teacher, or is there a bigger picture where there is a big plan and then it's implemented and the teachers are given instruction on how to do that? So, those are a lot of things that were brought up for that. But can I just say one more thing? The biggest thing is that I think the biggest issue as a district is to make sure that we are never non-compliant. And I just hope that when something like this arises again, and I know you guys aren't going to be here forever, but that you'll really listen to people when they bring that up. That's all.
For the next minute, okay?
The other thing to talk about is the fact that there is a part-time guidance counselor and a full-time school psychologist. Those roles are very different, and as a district, we really should have a full-time psychologist and a full-time guidance counselor to address the students' needs based on what their roles are. I don't know if their roles are very clearly identified at this point. Their needs, and also at the budget meeting, one of the things, and I wish more people would attend, I'm just gonna throw that out there. It seems like it's very basic. And a lot of the lingo that's used, parents don't understand, and parents are afraid to ask questions. So if they could, when the budget is presented, maybe explain what certain things mean, or what this fund, just talk about what this fund is used for, and what this bucket's used for, and what that bucket's used for. Just in general terms and not in accounting terms, it would be very helpful for us to know what these things mean. And then the last thing is, and I don't know what's allowed and what isn't allowed, but is there the opportunity for a community budget committee to talk about the budget with whoever's in charge? I'm assuming it's you. Is that allowed to be done? Like to have a community committee where parents, teachers, community members, and then the person in charge of the budget to discuss these things and talk about them at the meeting with you, so that we can put it in plain English, like what it means. So that was one of the things we discussed.
All right. I don't know if you want to tackle some of these, and I'll help them as we go through, okay? All right.
Bullying, I feel like the staff has a really good handle on that. But I think maybe having bullying awareness, I think that would be something Amy Murphy would do. As a whole community. I'm not really sure what, because this wasn't part of the group, like what else you can apply that.
The bullying one?
Yeah.
Yeah, some of the notes that I had was that school district information regarding if there are issues regarding bullying, who do you report to, who do you call, who do you contact, who's the key contact person? That came up in one of the groups, and I think that may be remedied already, but people have concern, if there is an issue, how do we get them involved?
Yeah.
Okay, and is there a policy in place that the district has? And does the policy deal with bullying that takes place out of school, perhaps even via the internet? If the child is threatened or something is done, and then they come into school the next day in fear that something's going to happen, how does the district deal with that? So those are some of the concerns that have popped up, okay?
No. So the next big thing is the Common Core implementation, and there's mass confusion about that right now as a state. I think that as a district, we don't really know what's Common Core, what isn't Common Core, and how that ties into APPR, and how that affects the teachers.
One of the key concerns that came up from the parents too is that the number of days missed by teachers, as they're going through professional development to learn more about Common Core. Let's face it, ladies and gentlemen, this issue is right across New York State. Our commissioners having these hearings, I know this district's been involved in attending some of those, and that there are a lot of people saying too much, too fast, you're not helping our teachers, you're not helping our kids, and we need more time to implement this. So people have a concern if the teachers are going to miss class time with students. Do we have substitutes? How's that all going to be made up? Okay, so that was the key issue.
The other thing is the switching of teachers from different grade levels. As parents, we never really understood why that was happening. If they're in third grade, why do they have to leave third grade? If they're in first grade, why can't they just, that's what they know, that's what they do? Why, there's a different learning curve, and I guess the curriculum is still the same. It's an entire different lesson plan that needs to be done for an entire year. They already have that in place. They can be more efficient, they're more effective. They know that grade, and we just can never get behind. Why is this teacher being moved here? And maybe if there is a reason, are we allowed to know that reason if it's not a personnel reason?
I need PPR, and Matt's going to come up in a few minutes and share some thoughts with them. Just some other key things. We're going to jump to social behavior program.
Yeah.
Okay. Social behavior programs. We talked about what programs are out there for children. That are going to help them make wise choices. We all had stories about DARE. It was a program that I loved. My children went through it when I was a superintendent in Nova Scotia. And are there programs like that? Are there programs north of Greenbush Police Department or other organizations to bring in to help our students? Make good choices, especially with the whole world and the internet and Facebook and all the other things going on. How do we deal with all this as well? So some help there as well. And then the last one was ties with the community. You know, how does Gardner Dickinson School, how do we tie in with the community in order to gain their support and continue their support? And you saw some ideas when we talked about the superintendent principal position, the superintendent being more active in community organizations. But we also talked about more programs coming into schools. You know, whether it's, you know, grandparents' days, bringing in school volunteers. I know the schools are looking at some programs like that already.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, good. Want to jump to the next one? First one? Okay, yeah. This one I misunderstood, and I'm glad I got it clarified. Because we're going over the slides, and Laura brought up, what's this course on civics? And I said, oh, I think it was some kids, you know, more civics. Then I met with the parents, and I got to give credit to Ned, my friend here, who said, no, I want people to be civil at meetings. He said, I want people to be productive, to move, you know, to move forward. And I said, thank you, sir. I misunderstood that, and I was going to clarify that tonight. Because that is the key point. By being, you know, civil and communicating, we're going to move forward. We'll hear me talk more about that. Communication, okay? Constantly, okay? People kept bringing it up. If we communicate, guys, we can be successful. Meredith, I know you want to say a couple words about the grant writer.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
There are many opportunities that we miss because we don't have somebody who's dedicated to writing grants. That's free money that is allocated to a specific need based on the grant you applied for. And if you get a grant, that money is going to get paid back to the person doing it and then some. So we're throwing out the idea of, is it possible to get a part-time grant writer in here to get us free money? And can we talk about that seriously, because this will leak down into the students and they'll benefit greatly from things, especially if our district isn't responsible for paying any of that money back and the taxpayers are.
Meredith, Michelle, thank you very much for your help, please. Now we're going to shift back to the faculty and staff, and we're going to bring up Matt Lutz. Matt is going to talk
Sorry,
about
no problem. You're already nervous.
Shot shake from Tokyo.
That's okay.
Okay, and I'm pleased to say that I know some of these issues are already being addressed. I'll let Matt speak a little bit to it, so Matt, welcome.
Good evening. Give you a little background information on the ABPR, in case you guys are not aware of it. The ABPR was implemented last year by New York State to evaluate the teaching profession. The objective of ABPR is to make the teachers as effective as possible, to help the teachers improve as educators, and to create a positive learning environment for the kids. Now, our current ABPR has its flaws and has its inadequacies, just like a lot of them in the state. The ABPR committee is diligently working with the administration, who is very open-minded to the suggestions to ensure we have a successful ABPR process. I would want to make you aware that these are the current issues we have, and they're being addressed currently as we speak. I'm confident that in 2 months, we should have an APPR that will make the school successful. So, do you want me to go into details about these, or?
I don't know, because, you know, you bring up a good point, Matt, because one of the issues that came up, especially when parent groups brought up, you know, the same answer.
Right.
And it's a whole way of evaluating teachers, and, you know, perhaps a session on that, once we plans put together, would be a good idea. I don't think we need to go into all the details.
All right, anyways, any questions? I would, no, perfect, thank you.
Thank you. All right, now, other items that the faculty and staff identified, remember, we're putting everything up here, everybody suggested we brought up. Then here are some repetition here, some of these things, you know, came up in other groups as well, but I wanted you to see that there were common themes that did develop among the different groups. There are policies on RTI and AIS, the board is aware of that, and you know there's going to be a study done to deal with that. Board communication, professional development, about common core. Teachers said, you know, Mike, we understand we got to be out of the classroom, you know, to get some professional development, but let's make it directly related to the implementation of the common core in our classroom, so we can take something and run with us. If we have to miss time with our kids, which we don't want to do, you know, let's give us something we come back, they can benefit from it. Right? Curriculum and instruction guidelines. When we talked about the movement of staff, that popped up a couple of times amongst both the parent groups and the faculty and staff. You know, are there guidelines for each grade level? So if a teacher is also teaching third grade and finds out the next year he or she is teaching fourth or fifth, are there curriculum guidelines? Are there Common Core learning stations? Are there teaching strategies in there for someone to address and to work on this summer? Make it better for our children. Once again, the reassignment to staff from year to year, too often, not enough information shared, not a lot of input allowed by faculty and staff in some of the moves that took place. Other issues the faculty and staff came up with, this one I thought was very important. Recovery from last year. This district went through a very difficult time last year and definitely over the summer. And the recovery is not a one-stop shop deal. It's a process, right? And we're moving forward. This study, the board allowing the study to take place as part of that recovery. And I'm pleased to say, I think that you're definitely moving in the right direction. Scheduling, the whole concept of how is the schedule put together year to year? How much input is there from faculty and staff? Are there scheduling committees? All these issues came up. I know Mr. Warden and you're aware of it, and I know it's something that we're going to look at. School safety. Do we have a crisis plan? Do we practice it? Well, you do. I found out. I came in one day in the parking lot, and two staff members were out there, and they said, Mike, we're doing a lockdown drill today. All right, so I came in and said, Lee and Meredith, I said, you're doing a lockdown drill today? And they said, yeah, how'd you hear about it? I said, I was on the parking lot. I said, I guess you're practicing your crisis plan, so it's working. And the funny thing was, I knew when the drill was. And I was at a meeting with another staff member, and a teacher came in and said, I want to take my kids outside. We're going to do the lockdown drill now. And I said, no, you're safe. I know what it is. You're fine. Go ahead. So they did. But glad to see the crisis plan, the school safety plan is in place. There's probably an active committee here. Whether that plan needs to be looked at again. That's facing the safety of students and staff and paramount, Mr. Chairman, in the school. Right? I then came up about minimal requirements, not only physical education, but health and other areas. And this is something I know the administration is looking into because, you know, Meredith talked about compliance issues, whether it's special ed, RTI, AIS. Well, there are also compliance issues on what we teach and how much we offer for children. I was very pleased to see that the district increased their staff to provide extra services, especially like AIS in those areas this year. So we need to take a look at all those as well. And the middle school came up. A couple items regarding the middle school. Obviously, one of the questions came up. It was about just having a part-time guidance counselor. A question came up regarding advanced classes. We currently offer 2 classes for advanced classes for children in 8th grade. How do we identify these children? Can we start advanced programs earlier in the middle school? The need for professional development regarding the middle school and the involvement by the administrators in the middle school, being actively involved. And I'm pleased to say I know that the middle school staff has been meeting and looking at these issues, and I know Mr. Borbeck is helping to lead the charge on that. So those are all the issues that were brought up in the focus group. To all the focus group members, I hope that we've covered most of it. We'll give people an opportunity to speak a little bit about it after. But I want to take a couple minutes now to give you my thoughts, okay, about a summary of what's happening. I want to thank a few people, then we'll open for questions, and I want to make a few recommendations. Number one, I think the district needs to take a look at its entire organizational structure. And I think this has to be done before your next superintendent search takes place. Now, you can take my recommendations and say, thanks, Mike, have a good day, you know, but I really think, and I firmly believe most of the focus group members that we talk about this, you need to know not only the superintendent and principal roles, but who's in charge of AIS, RTI, other areas, who do we go to for bullying? We've heard a lot about these. These are easy to resolve, okay? I'm sure there's an organizational chart in the district someplace who does what, okay? And that chart should be reviewed, and that needs to be taken care of. I'll be quite honest with you. If you're going to do a search for a superintendent, any candidate's going to ask, tell me about the district, tell me about who does what do you have in place here? All right, because people want to know what the job entails. Right? I can't stress enough communication. All right? Michelle hit it right on the head. You know, if somebody contacts you, respond to them as quickly as you can, and then get back to them with the information. When I was a superintendent, we always had, like you have on your website, a place where parents could send in, a community member could send in a question. We always send it back a response, we get back to you with a certain number of days we did. Let's do that, everybody, okay? Whether it's teachers being contacted by a parent, board members being contacted by someone, administration, whatever, get back to people, communicate, open the doors for communication. I don't think that was taking place last year. It is now, it has to continue. And I think that if you deal with the issues of communication, you're going to rebuild the trust in all the parties involved. Share with people, you know, answers to questions, share with them more information that they need, if they ask for. I'm thrilled to see that the district is moving in that direction with the programs you're offering, and I know your Board of Education is eager to jump on board with this too. Trust, remember, is a two-way street, everybody, okay? You know, you have to, people have to trust you, you know, for you to trust them as well, so let's not forget about that. I think one step that the district needs to do is take these suggestions, now not every one of them, but the basic ones, and develop action plans and involve all the stakeholder groups. I personally think we got a lot of information we're sharing here tonight. I feel your board members are going to be on information overload when you walk out here.
Yeah.
I personally think that either a regular board meeting or another special meeting like this, and let's just have a forum, and let's talk about one or two of the issues and what we want to do. Do we want to go up with a strategic planning committee to take a look at some of these issues? Do we want to take a look at that number one issue regarding the superintendent principal position and the superintendent search? Do we want to create a communications committee? Put all stakeholder groups on it. That includes Board of Education, administration, parents, community, staff, everybody. Get representatives there that can carry the word back about what's happening, that can ask for ideas. You know, we talked a little bit about perhaps a survey about the qualities you want in a superintendent, maybe a survey about communication as well, look for different ideas. There's a lot of great ideas out there that should be taken advantage of. So I strongly recommend we continue this, and I'm going to recommend, I'm saying it publicly, we need to continue the dialogue. Whether I'm sitting here or not, you guys need to be involved. The issues have been identified. And don't forget the other issues that have been identified. A lot of these are being addressed. Some of these can be handled very quickly, simply by giving an answer to the question, putting the information out there for all parents, and sharing with them. So don't hesitate to do that. And this is already happening. I wrote this a while back, but it talks about return the district focus back to what is best for children, and I believe we are getting there, and I believe we're well on the way there. We need to continue. The most important thing this district has to do is to hire the next superintendent of schools. That one, I think, needs to be addressed, and I think you need to take a look at your own organizational structure first. That is my wish that you follow through with that, and I really think that that will help open the door for a lot of things. Before we open it up to questions, I just want to say some thank yous. First of all, I want to thank the Board of Education for allowing this study to take place.
Yes.
Parents and community, thank you as well. And to Meredith and Michelle, thank you for getting up here and speaking too. I just know that a presentation like this has more power when it comes from the people that gave the ideas. I can sit up here and talk to you, and after 8 or 9 minutes, I'm going to lose your attention. But having them come up here and sharing what means, what's important to them, and doing it in a professional way, I really do appreciate it. So thank you guys as well. So that leaves questions, comments, and suggestions. Where do we go? Okay. First thing I'd like to ask, and we can open it up for some discussion if you want, was your thoughts and ideas about my recommendations and comments about continuing the discussion, having more forums like this to pick certain topics, and trying to come up with some action plans for things. Let me open it up for comments, suggestions, ideas. And before you can do that, focus group members, did we get it? Did we get all the information? Did we cover it? Okay, if I missed anything, feel free to stand up and share a little bit about that. But I want to thank all of you, the zillion emails you sent me with your suggestions and ideas, and I tried to incorporate them. I think we did a good job. I'm going to thank you, Jason, for that as well. So, thoughts, ideas, suggestions, anybody want to say anything? Right.
I think having the community groups, especially for the budget, years ago they did that, and they did a line-by-line budget. I think that's very important for taxpayers to see, because they're seeing categories and how much a category has increased, and they have no idea why. I think the line-by-line budgets, and they always did them that way during the budget meetings, they have their focus groups. I think that's the way to go for budget. To get budgets passed the first time, which we haven't had a problem with, but if we're talking about possibly hiring more staff and meeting these standards, these budgets might increase, drastically. So we want to make sure people understand why they're going up in each line and and not just in categories, especially when they see administrative costs, and they think, oh, well, that's just for the 2 administrators, when in reality it isn't. And I think having focus groups for important issues like the Common Core standards, I think that's a good thing to do.
Thank you, appreciate it. Good suggestion. Anybody else?
I like the fact that you put the restructuring first as far as the suggestions go, because I think if we tackle that first, and then some of those people who are in that chart head the committees of some of the other things, that will take care of our question as to who do we go to about this issue. If we have a clear picture of who's doing what, and then these people tackle the issues and bring in the community members to those particular focus groups, we'll say, oh yeah, that's the person who is in charge of this particular issue. And you know, if you do some of the other things before you get that identified, there still might be some confusion as to where do we go with this.
Thank you. That's good. Bill Smith?
Just one other thing I wanted to comment on the structure of the staff.
Sure.
I think when we decide what we're looking for, and I'm hoping that it is not a combination again, that we can use Questar. I wasn't totally against Questar. What I don't like is the fact that they screen all of the applicants and give you what they want to give you. I think if they did the ads and they knew what the criteria was and they advertised for it, and all of the resumes came here. So we saw the people ourselves that we want to screen in or out, and the board sees them.
Excellent idea. That's been done with other BOCES, I know as
And
well.
I think that's a
Because
good way to do
a
it.
lot of other people who were served on those committees who told me how that was done, wanted more input, wanted that. Meredith, go ahead.
I would like to know if, with the superintendent search or when this is all cleared up, do you plan on having Lee a part of that? Is he? Okay. Well, then there you go, because I feel like we would want that. I don't know. I do. I don't know anybody.
To be part of the search.
Yes, to be part of the search committee.
It's out of my control.
Unless he
Thank you.
stays-
Unless you stay longer, then
That's also good.
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you, Meredith.
He might consider a part-time superintendent.
Thank you, Phyllis. You have to clear my wife. Exactly.
Either one of you.
Okay, we use the same
Job
terms.
share.
Any other comments, suggestions? So, what about the concept of let's continue the dialogue, let's sit down and talk about when we're going to talk about this again? I know there's a board meeting that's scheduled for the 21st, correct? I cannot be there that night because actually I'm doing the superintendent search in the district. So, but I'm hoping that we can have a little discussion that night about what we want to do and come up with a game plan. I asked the board members to think about everything you've got. We've got copies of the slides back there. I'd like to let you have them. If you want, I can get you copies of all the input from all the groups. I've got it on the sheets. It's 30 pages long, it's small print, but we tried to do our best to summarize it for you so we don't have to go through that, but I can share those with you as well. But I would very much like to see this continue. Okay, very much so. Okay, anybody else? Let me say thank you. Okay, all right.
About the minutes
Yep,
being
yep.
not quite as concise as they've been.
Right.
We always tape recorded meetings in this district years ago, and then the clerk would listen, and sometimes it was grueling, listen to the tapes and decide, we can put this in because it was important to a majority of people. The good thing about it was the following meeting, people were reminded, okay, I asked this question and this is how it was answered. So they had some background if they were coming to a meeting.
To piggyback on that, I think minimum we should have an audio recording that can be posted. I'll continue to videotape, but
I work in a couple of districts where they actually videotape and put them on public television, so don't go there yet, Take small steps there, and then I say that's the way to go. So that changes the dynamic of the meetings sometimes as well. Other comments, suggestions, ideas? Yes, sir. Carl, how we doing, buddy? It's all on Carl.
Couple of meetings without saying something. We talked about communication with the town. Evidently, it didn't happen tonight, was the town board meeting.
I found out about it just by going into your webpage, I didn't know about it. And I think they should have sent something home, even with the kids, just saying there's a board, you know, as parents, they're not aware of things going on in the school. So I think there's gotta be something going home, just so parents know, because a lot of parents would wanna be here,
Okay.
you know, so.
No, good point, because I know we can always learn and improve. You know, I know there's opportunities for School Connect now to call every household. There's a web blast you can do. People talk a lot about the advertiser, putting more and more in there, because that seems to be the paper that most people take a look at. And I know that's something other districts in already have pursued, and I recommend you do that as well. You can never communicate enough, you're right. You know, it's difficult, but looking for ideas. This is perfect for, you know, a committee, won't have to last very long, but just come up with a number of ideas, brainstorm, let's put them in place, okay? And get the word out to everybody. Okay, anybody else? Good? Guys, thank you very much. It's been great working with you. I love my time together here with you guys, and
Yeah.
I can keep an eye on you guys. So you may see me around in a meeting or two to see if this thing moves forward. If the board wants me around, that's fine too. But
Yeah.
I want to thank you. You got a hidden gem here in this district, guys. Take advantage of it
Yeah.
before you got the leadership for it. Thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah. Go up, Lee. Oh.
Thank you. Thanks, Larry.
Okay, I want to thank Mike and certainly all the participants. And I wanted to thank you guys in particular, everyone who presented. You did a wonderful job. I'm sure very difficult information to share. You did it very respectfully, and it really, you know, we could receive it so much better because of the way you presented it. So thank you very much. And it's great to hear so many great things about Lee. And moving forward in a positive direction. I know, you know, he's, you know, worked with the staff here to do so much already towards achieving some of the items here that we need to do. So there's a lot to think about, and we definitely will bring this back to our either a regular board meeting or special board meeting. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Andrew. Appreciate it.
Thank you. I tried to walk across the Hudson and I had to change my pants, so it's not all the greatest thing is, but from the superintendent and principal combination, sometimes I have to reprimand myself, so that is a little confusing. The only thing I wanted to say, we appreciate all the time and commitment, and I know the board does, and they've certainly used their courageous act to get feedback, and obviously
You're fine.
it's positive all the time. But that's what makes systems become effective, is that it becomes a part of the culture in terms of getting feedback and improving. That's part of how you get better, and certainly we will get better. As far as my role is concerned, I'm not just passing through. I've been inspired by the commitment and dedication of the staff, and it kind of buoys me up every day, the kind of things that are happening every day. So even though there's some nice comments made, but this is a jewel, and what we have to do is be mindful of that we can't stand still, that we have to think of the future, and part of this conversation is certainly dealing with the immediate issues that, and many of them we have addressed or are in the process of addressing, but we also have to think about what do we look like in 3 years, what do we look like in 5 years, or what do we want to look like in that time frame. So the board and I certainly have discussed and talked to the president with respect to what Mike had suggested, is developing, continuing the process, whatever we call it, whether it's a strategic planning committee where we bring most of you perhaps in the meeting, so we can address not only the here and now, but also thinking about how do we make the middle school even better than it is and be competitive with every school around. The advantage you have has been identified. You don't have layering. You don't have these bureaucratic established layers like in these mega school districts where you can't move the district fast. This school district, we can move it very fast, and we can make it exactly what you want it to be. So I think the future is bright. The best is yet to come. Please hang in with us, and we'll certainly take all those considerations that you've made at the next board meeting and the future meetings. So don't think this is a one-shot deal. We're moving forward, and I'm really, whatever role I play, I'm just happy to be a part of it. Thank you.
officially have to adjourn the meeting or not, and we probably should. Start putting in the minutes to close the meeting, okay?
Okay, so can I have a motion to close the adjourn the meeting?
Are we allowed to? So are you allowed to do that?